it's time for another Froggy Friday video. So I've got my frog mould and I've mixed up some craft resin, which is 1:1 by volume. I'm putting a small amount into the bottom of the frog mould. I'm not going to be using all of this in here, and I don't know how much I'm actually going to need, because what I have here are some air freshener beads, but they're basically water beads. Now, I got these from the pound store, so they're not particularly smelly, and I'm hoping that the air freshener that's in them is not going to affect the resin, but we'll find out. I like the water bead effect, and I have never done this before, so I thought I'd give this a go. Don't quite know why I'm trying to use tweezers, but I want to pop one in there, and I just want to see how deep this resin is. I don't want it to be sinking, the bead to be sinking completely in there, and I think there's too much resin in here, so I'm going to grab a spoon and try and tip some of this resin out. First of all, I was going to scoop it out, but actually I just thought, you know what, just tip it out the back. That's fine. So I scraped a good amount out, and then I can try my beads again. I don't want them to sink completely below the surface. I just want to create the little patterning that you get. So I dropped a few beads in there, and I'm just going to use the tweezers to move them around. I want some kind of separation so that you get defined little holes, which I hope is what they're going to leave. I don't want them to go too far towards the head, because my plan is, once these have set, to fill the little holes or pockets with some glitter UV resin, and I'm going to need to cure that. So I'm just going to arrange these, and then I need to wait for this to cure. I'm ready to remove the beads now, and I'm just going to scoop them out of the little holes. I'm going to try not to break them. This is like a little spoon. It's a kind of dental tool. If I can get them out whole, then so much the better. So if I just get the spoon underneath them, I can prise them out, and it was oddly satisfying, I have to say. Once I've got them out of here, I'm going to leave this to dry, because I want to put some UV resin in these holes, and I don't want any moisture still to be in there. I could go in there with a cotton bud, but quite frankly it's nice and sunny, so I'm just going to sit the frog in the window for about an hour, and then it should be ready for me to fill in these holes. It's dry now, so I can start mixing up some colour. I've got this glitter. It's a holographic glitter. It's from Stampin' Up. It's called Dazzling Diamonds. I'm going to add that to a little bit of UV resin, which I've put in here. I'm using Let's Resin UV. I'm going to rely on this glitter, a yellow glitter, just to provide the colour. I'm not going to add any other pigment. So I need to add a little bit and then mix it up and see how much colour I get. And I always need to keep in the back of my mind that this is UV resin and it's going to require me to cure it, but I'll see if that's a strong enough colour, because by the time I keep adding that into the bead, it will build on itself, and I do hope that that will be enough. I'm using my stick to fill up the holes, and I'm going to fill them up halfway and cure it and then continue to do so, because for this first layer I will be able to cure from the bottom, but in future layers it's pretty much going to rely on me curing only from the top. It's nearly all filled, and any of the glitter that I managed to get on the outside, like I dropped a bit here, I just used my glove to scoop that up before I was able to cure it. So once this last one is filled up, I'm going to cure this, and as I say, I will do this from above and below the frog. That first layer is done, and I've had some more beads soaking in a little bit of water, so they've become slightly larger. And now I've mixed up some more craft resin, and I'm going to start pouring my second layer, and this will be exactly the same as the first layer. not putting a very deep layer of resin, and I learnt my lesson this time, and I'm using a spoon, which was much easier to place these beads. So I'm putting a good amount in because I've got a bigger area, and then just using my silicone tool to move them. I don't really want them touching. I'd like them to be separate pockets or holes. I have put one in the head, but it's not too far forward so that I will be able to reach that to fill it. And I'll be back when that's cured. And again, my trusty spoon comes in handy, and I'm picking them out and just using a plastic spoon to scoop them back into the pot. And these have made a much bigger hole, obviously, because they were bigger beads, so I'm going to need quite a bit more UV resin to fill these. But before I can do that, again, I have to leave this to dry. Now I'm ready to fill these ones. I'm going to be using this alcohol ink. It's a metallic alcohol ink which I got from Temu. Just have to make sure that you shake it up well, which I've already done. And I'm going to pop a few drops into some UV resin that has the glitter in it. Mix that around, and then I can start to fill these drops. And I'm going to try and get into the head area without spilling any all over the place. So we'll see how I go. I'm using the stick to add it a drop at a time, and I very quickly realized that this was probably not going to be the way to go in order to do all of them. Once I had that about half full, I used my torch to set that so that I could get right in there and get the torch over the top of it. Then I remembered that I had some pipettes, so I filled those up, and it was so much easier to use those to fill up the little pockets. And again, I'm only filling them part way, and then I'm going to cure them, and I'm going to keep going until they are full. I'm just finishing topping them up, but I had to make up some more resin, and I decided that the colour was too pale, so I've put some more alcohol ink in there to make it a deeper colour. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cure this layer, and then it's going to be the same process, so I won't show you the mixing and filling of the resin or the beads. I will just show you the colour that I put in. That was the last layer of water beads, and I filled that with purple. That's all completely set, and I now have mixed up some more craft resin, and I'm going to fill up the rest of my frog. So I'm going to do my tipping and fill up the head, and I'm hoping that I've got enough here. I've also got some little beads or flat back gems on the side, and I'm going to try and put those in the toes and hope that they stay in place. I should have UV resin them in place, I think, but I'm gonna try just putting them in place and hoping that they stay there. I normally know that this frog takes 4 ounces, but because I've been doing it in layers, I really don't know how much I need to fill it up, so I'm hoping I've got enough, and it looks like I do. I'm just going to use my stick now to make sure that the resin gets into the toe areas, because I don't want any bubbles or missing toes. And once that's all filled up, I'm going to try and pick up some of these flat back gems and pop them into the little holes, and they're just the right fit. So I use my stick to push them down and make sure that every toe is filled. Then I'll just scrape out the very last bits that are in my pot, make sure I've got everything as full as I possibly can, and then I'm going to use my stick to go around and remove any bubbles just from under the hips, because that's a problem area, and the chin. And then it's just a case of leaving this to cure. It's ready to demold, so I'm going to pull away the mold and hope that everything has turned out the way that I would like it to. I'm not quite sure why some of these gems are looking a little bit gold. They don't look like they're upside down, but maybe it's just reflection. I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. But some of them look like they might have flipped over. So I'm just going to carry on pulling this off, get the legs free, and then just remove the head. And there we go. All right. It's cool looking. It isn't quite the way I expected it to be. I've got 4 layers in there, with them becoming increasingly larger as they get to the bottom. Is it pretty? No, I don't think it is, but I can do something to rectify that. It does look like some of the gems flipped over. So there's only 1 or 2 actually, so I might have a cure for that. I'll have to put my thinking cap on, but yeah, he needs something else. I'm not happy with the way it's looking. At the very least, he needs eyes, so I used a yellow acrylic paint marker and coloured that in, and then I added some orange and tried to blend it a little bit. And finally, a black pupil. There's a small mark on the surface of the head, which I don't know if you can see it, but I think the water bead literally touched the edge of the mould. So there's a very small divot there, and I want to cover that. So I've got some ribbons, and they're very small scraps, but I thought the colours sort of matched the beads inside. I'm going to try and tie a messy bow, and then I can glue that over the floor on the top of the resin. So I'm trying to lay them down so that they're sort of crossing each other, and I just need to put this organza ribbon underneath, and I should have laid that down first really. So let me lay that down, and then I can just stack the other ribbons on top of it, sort of crossing them, and I'm alternating them, and then I can tie a knot so that I gather up all of those other pieces. And I'm pretty useless at tying knots because I have fairly chunky fingers. There we go. Let's pull that tight, and then I can double knot that. It will hold everything together, and then I can just snip the ends to length. I'm going to use some B7000 glue, and I'll put that exactly where that mark is on the resin, and I can glue the bow in place. That's going to take a few minutes to completely set, 45 roughly, but it will sit on there quite happily, and then I'll be able to fluff out the ribbon afterwards. In order to finish it off, I'm just going to put another blob of glue there, because I think it looks a little bit weird just sticking the bow on there. And I've got one of these little tiny roses which I got from Temu, and I'm going to place that on the front there. So I'm still waiting for that to dry, but I'm going to deal with these beads that have flipped over, which was somewhat annoying. I've got a Copic marker, which is just an alcohol pen, and it's a similar colour, I'm hoping. Might need to have something a little bit darker, but I'm just going to colour in the toes basically. So I'll try and put a layer of yellow and orange alcohol ink on these toes, and that should be enough to disguise the fact that they've actually flipped over and it's now silver. And I think that will do for this frog. Froggy Friday is a weekly collaboration that's hosted by these wonderful people. You'll find a playlist in my description box below. Go check that out to find out what all the other wonderful contributors have done. Please give them some love, and please give me some love. Give me a thumbs up, comment, share this video, and subscribe if you haven't. It's free. You should have seen a QR code there which you can scan with your phone, and that will subscribe you to my channel. And I'd like to thank everybody who has subscribed and commented. You really don't know what it means to me. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you'll come back and see what I'm going to make next time. Take care. Bye.